In this video, we'll be showing how to disassemble the original lower components from the tank of a tow-behind hydraulic drive 1910 with a 6-run double chute configuration. We have already replaced the center and rear tank components with new Romafa stainless steel parts, and now we will start the process to upgrade the front tank's components. If you are considering performing this upgrade, be sure to also watch our next video where we show the complete reassembly of the meter area. Also check out our video on replacing the seed tube pipes. To begin the disassembly of the old components, we'll remove the bottom cover plate and remove the plastic inserts for reuse. Next we will remove the seed delivery tubes. Remove the hose clamps, set aside the plastic end fitting, and lower the tubes away from the manifold. In some cases the hose clamps will be rusted solid and need to be ground through in order to remove them. Loosen the hose clamps and remove the pressurization air line from each side of the manifold. Disconnect the pressure gauge line, cut the zip tie, and move the line away from the work area. Remove the joint link in the meter drive chain in order to remove the chain from the sprockets. Remove and take apart the agitator crank linkage parts. Remove the hydraulic drive unit, ensuring the wire has been disconnected, but the hoses can remain connected as the unit can hang from the hydraulic hoses during the process. Remove the bolts holding the lower manifold to the meter housing, loosening but leaving opposite corner bolts till last. You will want 2 people or an adjustable stand for removing the final bolts and lowering the unit to the ground. In most cases, the plastic parts will be reused, so you don't want them damaged. Loosen the bolts holding the meter housing to the meter mount plate, and again with 2 people, remove the nuts and lower the meter housing to the ground. Note that it is now recommended to leave the adhesive unexposed on the upper side of the meter housing gasket. If your 1910 was built before this was the recommendation, and the gasket is adhered on both sides, you will need to cut through the gasket before removal will be possible. Loosen the set screw and remove the drive sprocket. You will likely want to reuse the plastic agitators and stainless steel clip pins and shaft, so these will need to be removed from the old meter housing. The agitation shaft is stainless steel already, so should be reusable once cleaned off. Also, if equipped, be sure to remove the pressure gauge line connector for installation in the replacement meter housing. Next, loosen the bolts holding the meter mount plate to the 1910 frame. Leave a couple of the nuts on until you are ready to remove it. Then, from inside the tank, remove the bolts attaching the ladder onto the chute ladder bracket. Lower the mounting plate with the attached ladder bracket and foam seal gasket to the ground. You may want to use an air hammer or mallet to help it along. These parts have some weight to them, so be careful. Before reinstalling new parts, you'll want to polish off the surfaces to remove any loose rust or debris that could make for a poor seal. Now turning our attention back to the manifold bracket, remove the slide stop brackets from the old manifold bracket and transfer the hardware to the new stainless part. The long carriage bolts that hold the plastic double chute components together will almost certainly be too rusty to remove, which means grinding the heads off. Once the heads are ground off, tap the bolts in slightly with a punch and remove the plastic parts. Remove the nuts from the end of the upper-lower chute selector slide rods. Take careful note of the orientation and position of the slide insert pieces before disassembling them. Remove the lower cover plate mounting clasps. Next, we'll take each of the plastic manifold parts to the vise, where we will grind the nuts off the bolts in order to remove the old bolts. If we tap the square ends in a little, then we have a gap below the nut that we can get a die grinder into. This is necessary because the square end of the carriage bolts, from which we ground off the heads, will not easily slide out through the plastic components. We'll also grind off the bolts from the remaining plastic parts we plan to reuse. Once we have all of our parts separated, we will wash all the plastic parts in water to remove dirt, seed treatments, and fertilizer residue that have accumulated on the parts. This will ensure these plastic parts are ready for reassembly with the new stainless steel components from Romafa. And with that, we'll conclude this video on the meter housing area disassembly. Check out our reassembly video to complete your overhaul. We've tried to condense this video to provide a brief overview of what is involved and some tips along the way. It is not intended to be a replacement for the technical manuals. Expect what you watched in the last 7 minutes to take at least 3 hours to accomplish.